These governments are snooping on just about everything you do. Just take a look at what Canada has been doing under these Emergencies Act, right? We, of course, brought you that story last week when Justin Trudeau, of course, announced the new Emergencies Act, which would give new power to the government to seize bank accounts, to rid Ottawa of all of you horrible white supremacist truckers out there, right? Clean up the streets of Ottawa and get this economy back and rolling again. Well, now that they've done that, the blockades have finished. They've removed these trucks. By the way, they've confiscated them. And they're going to sell them and not giving them back to the truckers. All of this is now cleaned up. But the Canadian government and Justin Trudeau have come out and said, you know what, we really like the power that you gave us. We really like this power so much so that we said it was going to be very temporary and targeted and geo-targeted. But no, we're going to continue these war powers. We like them so much that, in fact, even though the blockades are lifted, the state of emergency is not over, and we are going to continue to keep these powers in place.
So this was voted on yesterday. He says that any member of parliament that voted in favor of this was voting for freedom for all Canadians, but not the ones who were exercising their right to protest, clearly. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland says that they are now seizing bank accounts of people who they know protested and acted as part of the blockades. They are also working to nullify the insurance on any vehicle that was there. And they are looking into payment accounts, crowdsourcing, and certain person-to-person payment accounts as well. When asked, well, how do you get the government to get out of your accounts and give them back to you? And she says, stop being part of the blockade.
Yeah.
And we'll give you back your accounts. I am interested in how that would work. Like if you are someone who does have an account frozen and you just drove away, do you automatically get it back? I don't think that, I doubt it would be that simple.
No, yeah, at the edge of the blockade, they're like scanning your, like, can I see your bank card? Okay, you're with this bank. Okay, we're going to make a phone call. Can you please take this person off the list? There you go. Have a nice day, eh?
Yeah, it's all good now. I'm just going to scan okay, you're back. You're good now. You're back to being a citizen again. You know, Mary Oakes points this out on Twitter, says, when asked what powers from the Emergencies Act Trudeau's government is looking to make into permanent powers, Trudeau responds, quote, there needs to be a reflection about misinformation and foreign funding in this country. Okay, so what is misinformation? He blames misinformation, foreign funding, trying to destabilize Canada's democracy, among other things, for his invocation of the Emergencies Act. Invoking the EA had been necessary. It's been the responsible thing to do.
Oh, thanks, Joe Rogan.
Misinformation? Yeah, like, what?
Well, what he means by that is if Canadians think that they are donating to a cause to help truckers fight against a mandatory vaccine, not the vaccine itself, but the mandate, and they have given money, he thinks they don't know what they're doing, that they don't understand that they're giving money instead to swastika supporting hateful white supremacy groups who want to do bad things.
He's basically saying if you don't believe the propaganda, you've been misinformed.
Right. He also says that he wants to protect against foreign funding, trying to destabilize Canadian democracy. So anyone from any other country that donated to the cause, he thinks is acting as a destabilization agent inside of Canadian democracy. But, you know, Canadian democracy allows for peaceful protest, just not in this case.
I mean, this is appalling. I mean, we should all be appalled at this. I mean, here's a government, and this is the problem with giving governments too much power, right? Is that you can never unwind it. We warned about this last week. We said this right here on the show, that do we think for a second that they are going to pull these powers back? Do we think for a second, now that they have these powers to seize bank accounts, label them terrorists, do whatever they want about misinformation, that they're going to wind this back? They're not.
No.
They're absolutely not going to do that.
You know, it's sad that there is not a wider adoption of cryptocurrency, because this would make this unallowable, right? The government would not be able to trace who made what payment. They would not be able to seize cryptocurrency. This is like use case scenario number one.
Somewhat. So let's just unpack that a little bit, because I just did a video on my other channel about what Edward Snowden released a tweet the other day saying that Bitcoin is politics by other means, which is, of course, a play on the famous Klaus von Clausewitz commentary, which is war is politics by other means, right? So it's a play on that. This idea that now that Bitcoin exists, it's as if it's empowering everyone. It's not. It's in the hands of a number of elites. It's in the hands of a lot of governments.
But not all cryptocurrencies are.
No, but Bitcoin, we're specifically talking about Bitcoin, but the problem is that when Canada invoked these Emergencies Act, they absolutely went and seized exchange wallets.
Yes.
So yes, you can't, if you have it on a ledger, like if I have my cryptocurrency on a hardware cold storage ledger wallet or something offline, like Battlestar Galactica, I like to think of like Battlestar Galactica not being plugged into the internet. That's why it survived. Then okay.
That's
However,
lost on me.
But if your money is on these exchanges, which it was for many, many people, the Canadian government was able to seize those exchange wallets through those exchanges. And so these people are screwed. And you can donate money, that's fine, but it can still be traceable, right? They can follow it to an end point. I think it's empowering, but I think we just need to be careful about like going this a bridge too far. But yeah, you mentioned this Freeland. Go ahead, David.
I was just going to say, have we seen, because I've not seen anything, how's the mainstream media spinning this? What's going on in Canada? Like, I know Fox News has been on it, but I haven't seen any other networks on how they're spinning it.
I haven't seen any mainstream media coverage of Trudeau extending war powers. Like, I haven't seen, any coverage of it. It's like they're ignoring it.
No, what little we've seen internationally has been fairly positive, actually, truckers want to stand up for their rights to not be vaccinated, period. It was not about playing politics or that they were racist at all. It just, quotes from super reasonable people in the media, at least in overseas coverage.
So let's play the sound from Ms. Freeland about exactly what you need to do to make sure you're compliant with the Canadian government.
In terms of the financial instruments which our government is using right now to act against these illegal blockades and illegal occupation, we reviewed very, very carefully the tools at the disposal of the federal government. And we used all the tools that we had prior to the invocation of the Emergencies Act, and we determined that we needed some additional tools. Now, some of those tools, we will be putting forward measures to put those tools permanently in place. The authorities of FinTrack, I believe, do need to be expanded to cover crowdsourcing platforms.
Okay, so just want to make sure we're clear on that. So these crowdfunding platforms that support causes that we don't like here in your government, we need to expand that to make sure that that money is not going to nefarious causes like things that are tied to free speech or speech that we don't like. I mean, this is unbelievable.
I love that she used the word authoritarian there almost.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And she continues to call them illegal blockades, right? So what then is a legal protest? I think that Canadians should absolutely ask, what are the rules to protest legally then that you will actually hear us? Give us the new paradigm.
And as a journalist too. I mean, journalists were told as they went in this region yesterday, watching some journalists saying, hey, I was just told by the police that it's illegal for me to be standing here taking photos in this, I have to leave, otherwise I will be arrested. I'm in a city taking photos of news and you're telling me that that's illegal. So he had to leave and go into a Sheraton where he could take photos through the Sheraton windows of the police. But if he was on the street, it was illegal and he would be arrested under these new Emergency Act.
Did you guys ever see? Did you watch Arrested Development?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember when they had that little free speech cage out in the middle of nowhere? They're like, here, you go ahead, practice your free speech.
You go stand in the cage. Well, they had those on college campuses. I mean, it's funny. It's funny that we're talking about it in terms of Arrested Development, but you had free speech zones on college campuses, right? Where you could go and stand and you could say whatever you wanted if it was confined to this specific jump to conclusions mat. If you stood in this one section, you could do
and
it.
what they're doing with that is they're wanting your protests to not disrupt anything. But that is the complete opposite of what a protest is supposed to do. It is supposed to be disruptive because it's supposed to be a way to, hey, you are not listening. I'm going to disrupt you so that you do hear me. But if they force them into free speech zones or whatever, that's just like, just put them over there in the corner so we can't hear them, so we can get on with business as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, we have a membership program. For the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can support independent journalism just by going to morninginvest.com/join.
You get access to exclusive videos, plus the ability to join and chat with us live. We really appreciate your subscription, and you are supporting independent journalism.